Hello everyone, I'm Gary. Um, I joined the Invisible Boy project nearly a year ago now. I just want to tell you, after watching a very inspirational video yesterday, I just want to tell you a little bit about my journey. It started, I was a young lad from a council estate, nothing special, divorced parents, back in the 70s, wasn't thought much of, dad always in the pub, blah blah. Started getting in a bit of bother. Started getting in a lot of bother. Became a nuisance really. Was chucked out of my house at 16 and left to fend for myself. Yeah, boo-hoo. Yeah. Anyway, I ended up in court more than one occasion until the magistrates decided I needed straightening out and sent me to a detention centre called Medhamsley. I was 19. It was 1985. And I got 90 days in this place, 3 months. Nothing for a young scally like me, I'll do that on my head thinking. Soon thought different. Arrived at Medhamsley, walked through the gates, was asked my name, gave me name, and woke up on a table with this. Broken nose. Welcome to Medhamsley. That'll happen to you hourly if you're unlucky, daily if you're lucky. Get used to it. So, this place is in the northeast. I walk in with my northwest twang of Cumbrian accent, and I haven't got a northeast accent. So, excuse the language, but my name for 3 months was Cumbrian Cunt. And I was scared. I was terrified. And so was everybody else. And then I'd heard stories of a night after about a week or so. I'd heard stories of lads who worked in the kitchen getting raped, and I didn't want any of that. And then some television cameras turned up to make a documentary about the short, sharp shock and its effects, and because quite a lot of lads had committed suicide in there and other places. But the government said it was good, it was straightening lads out. So they sent the television cameras. They wanted to interview a couple of the inmates. So I was interviewed. And I was asked a series of questions, which I answered. But I could only answer in one way to any of the questions because there was a screw stood behind the cameraman and the interviewer with his face up, checking it every time there was an answer. If it was one he didn't like, I'd be in trouble. So I answered, yes, it's firm, but it's fair. And I think it's doing me good, yes. This went out whilst I was still in there. It was broadcast on television whilst I was still in there. And the chef saw it on television. And the sadistic bastard must have thought, I'll show him about being interviewed on television. And had me delivered to the kitchens the day after it was shown on the television. And he raped me. Quite violently raped me. Well, no, he violently raped me because I fought. I fought hard, but I lost. And he raped me. And it was the most awful, single most disgusting, evil, rotten thing that it blew me away. Luckily, I didn't work in the kitchens, so it never happened again. But it changed me right there and then, and put away a part of me that was never to come out again. From that day onwards, I never showed one scrap of vulnerability to anybody, ever. Ever. And some people like me thought I was a bit of a jack the lad. I came out of the place, it was 250 miles from where I lived, so I never got any visitors. So mum and dad weren't interested. None of my mates could afford to come over that far, or I wasn't friendly. I didn't have anybody friendly enough to come that far. But I came out of there and thought, and I'm gone. And I tried never to think about it again, although I did. But it wasn't the thinking about it. It was the effect it had on me as a person, as it affected the way I taught myself things, it affected the way I acted in public, badly affected my decision making. I always seemed to end back up in that circle and back in trouble, back being the one. But for as edgy as I was, I could never say no to anything. I could never. Ended up carrying on being a jack the lad for a while until I met my wife. And then I settled down, and she always said to me, there's something, I know there's something. She didn't know what, didn't have a clue what, but she said there was something not wrong with me, but different about me to anybody else. Which she was right, because I was different to anybody else, and I didn't let anybody, those 3 people inside my circle my entire life, and nobody else was getting close. And I lived my entire adult life like that. Until one day, a documentary came on the television about Medhamsley. I thought I'll watch that. And the clip of me in there talking to the camera was shown. And then a documentary about how the chef there was a rapist and a paedophile, and apparently he'd already been convicted. He was dead by the time this came out. But he'd been convicted of 10 rapes, and I never knew any of this. But quite a few had come forward. So an investigative journalist got onto it, became a police inquiry, ended up nearly 2,000 boys been abused just by this one man. And others. The violence was widespread, but the sexual abuse for me only came from the one man. I never saw justice of him. He was dead before. Anyway, a court case came, television cameras came, radio interviews came, barristers came, court cases came. And during all this, it was like somebody else watching it. And I just fell apart. And over a 6-year period, I lost everyone and everything in my life by pushing them away, because I couldn't deal. And you'll hear this word a lot. I couldn't deal with the shame. And it kept getting explained to me that it wasn't my shame to have, but to this day I still feel sorrow, not shame anymore. But it was shame. And it destroyed me, it destroyed my marriage, it destroyed my health, it destroyed my good name. I ended up on drugs, I lost my house, my business. I virtually became a bum and just buried myself in crime and drugs, because that way nobody had to see me. I almost ended up in jail, and then earlier on this year I tried to take my own life. It wasn't a vain attempt, it was a serious attempt. I was discovered completely out of the blue. I'm glad I was. But what changed my mind about my mind, it didn't change my mind, it changed my mindset, was the Invisible Boy Project. I found out about it through the internet, through Facebook, I think. Joined the group and was invited to send me picture in, because they were doing an exhibition of survivors in a gallery in Lancaster. So I sent my picture in, and because I'm fairly local to Lancaster, just the other side of the bay, I was invited. So I went. I just expected really to see an art exhibition and hear some professionals talking, which over the years I've heard now and again. Didn't take a lot of notice of them. Why would I? But it wasn't like that. I walked into this gallery upstairs in Lancaster. Oh, to be blunt, I was shitting myself. But I put the old, yeah, you're not going to bother me, and walked in. And for the next 2 hours, I was completely and utterly blown away. I'd never spoke in public to anybody other than a professional and my wife about what had happened to me. And that was very rare. But before I left, I'd stood up in front of a room full of people I'd never met before that day and spoke some of what was going on with me. And somebody did notice it. I actually started smiling. Because I'd never been anywhere where anybody had talked about getting better. And that's all they talked about, was recovery. And the different ways you can get to recovery, and you can get, and these are all cliches, but it was like somebody had switched a light on, and I just thought, Jesus, surely it's more complicated than telling yourself you're going to get better. But I thought, no, that's the way it must be. So I walked out of that gallery in Lancaster after listening to them all speak, and I decided I was going to get better. And 12 months ago, I was stood in a dock, still on drugs, disguising it, but still on drugs. I got a tag round my ankle and all sorts, and I was an horrible git. 12 months later, just finished my first week at work. I'm back in society. I'm back in the race. I'm back in the competition. I doubt I'll win it, but I'm back in the competition. I've got a degree of normality, a degree of worth, a degree of purpose. And all them positive things are jumping the fuck all over the bad things that are in my head. And all of us carry them. It's just how we carry them. My advice is, get them all, put them in a bag and throw them over your shoulder. And anybody that wants to talk to you about getting better, listen to them. Speak out. You've done the hardest thing by admitting to other people, It's not actually the hardest thing. The hardest thing is admitting to yourself. Because even though I knew it had happened to me, I never admitted it. By not admitting it to anyone else, by not speaking out, it did so much damage to my personality and my thoughts, and that could have been filled with better things. My advice is, remember what you're worth. Your mother went through hell having you. You might as well be good for her. Do your best. Listen to everybody that talks to you about recovery, because without listening to them, you'll struggle. So thank you to everybody that's helped me. And if I can help anybody, drop me a line. I chat shit most of the time, but every now and again I come out with a perler. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to continue with my life now, and I hope you all recover. You warriors. Bye now.